So in this section, we will learn about cin function. So we will be learning how to input values to our variables using the keyboard. So in this topic, you can view the discussion in your manual on page 25. So to start off, what is input, or how do you use input? Usually the command there is what we call a cin object. So what is a cin object? Cin object stands for your console input. It is linked to the keyboard and also used to enter data into a program while it is executing. Allows the user to enter a value at the terminals, which is your keyboards, and stores the item into a variable listed after the extraction, and then puts the computer in a temporary pause or wait once this command is executed. So it will wait for an input. So to start off, the cin object is already linked with our library in the IO stream. So there is no need to add additional libraries once we are going to make use of the C input, okay, or the console input. So how do you use the cin command? So to start off, let's create first a variable. So let's say int num. Then let's say the initial value of our num is 0. Okay. Then let's usually what I usually do is I place a queue for the user to input something. No? So I usually say, please enter an integer. Okay. Then after that, we will try to use the cin command. Now take note, the cin command is the opposite of cout, so therefore the direction of the arrow is going to the right. Okay. Then where are you going to place that value entered in your keyboard? So therefore we need to some sort of a variable to handle or to make use of where the value will be placed. So in this case, we can say num. So then once the computer will temporarily pause and tries to gather information in the keyboard, then once you press enter in your keyboard, then it will proceed to the next line of code. So next one is, let's say I want to display the value that you input. So the value, the integer that you input is before that, let me have there /n so that we have an escape sequence so that it will not be cluttered. So it will be in the next line. And we will say num. Okay. So the value that we input in num will be displayed in this value num. So to make it more clearer, let's just run the program. So we can see here at the very beginning of our code, during this execution, so the computer executes this first command. Then once it goes into this command, then there will be a temporary pause and it tries to wait for a keyboard input. So let's say, for example, I input there 12. So we can see that by pressing enter value, the integer that you input is 12, which is what we displayed here. Okay, so let's have another example. What happens if, well, let's run this one again. And since our variable handler is an integer, so if we run that one, what happens if we place there 1.035? And the only thing that is stored will be only 12 because we indicate there that our variables type is only integer. So again, the integer is 12. This is not even rounded off now. If I haven't told you before, if you misplace, let's say for example, 12.3, 12.78, this is not going to display 12 or 13, but it only be displayed as 12. They just remove 78 because you are storing a floating value to a integer value. Okay, so if I enter that one, you can see that it is 12. Okay, so that is how you make use of the cin command. Let's have some other examples. Let's say, let's have a basic input output. So we have there num1, basic addition. We will have another one, num2, and we have their answer. So I will make this one into a float. So you can preempt not to use a what we call an initial value. I usually place there an initial value just to make everything neater. And I'm just making sure that those variables has 0 at the initial state. So, and also answer. But you can also, again, you can also remove this one if you don't want to. So in this case, I will say, please enter your first number. Okay. Number. I will have there this. The next, where will I store our first number? It will be stored in num1. Then I will have another queue for the user to input for the second number. So this one, I will say second number, and it will be stored in num2. Now, once we have this one, that's the time we are going to manipulate. We already established all of the input values. That's the time we will manipulate or process the value. So we can say answer is equals to num1 plus num2. Okay. And we are going to display the answer value. Okay, so this is basically a simple addition. So usually some students will try to place this one at the very beginning, which is very wrong. The reason why it is wrong is because you are trying, the computer runs in a procedural manner, in which case it will run this first, but you don't have value for num1 and num2. Okay, so your answer will be your default answer. So based on processing, your process or your manipulation of outputs should be, or manipulation of, or your equation should be after you establish the different inputs. Okay, then that's the time you create your equations. So this is what we call equation. So in this part, this is your inputs, and last, this is your outputs. Okay, so if you run this one, it will queue the user to input the first number, let's say 23. Another one, it will go to the next, and it will wait for the command. So I will say input 12. So the result should be 35. Okay, so the integer that you input is 35. By the way, the output queue is different. So the sum that you input is the answer. So we can see there, we have there 12, then we have 45, and then of course the result is 47. Okay. So in your manual, there are some examples that you can follow and try to do in your spare time.